Hi, Jim Ziegler, the Alpha Dog, and we've got an incredible session for you today. My good friend, second generation good friend. I was friends with his dad when he was in Pampers. Uh, my good friend, Tim Martell from Wikimotive. He calls himself the SEO Animal. And I'm going to tell you what, he lives up to the title. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend, second generation friend, here he comes. Tim Martell. Hey, big guy.
Hey, Jim, thanks so much for having me today. It's great to be here, buddy.
A second generation friend. How about that?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Second generation friend, second generation car guy. It's kind of like the mafia. The names changed to protect the innocent.
uh, we're not going to tell each other secrets on this broadcast, that's for sure. Tim, Wikimotive. Wikimotive is internet marketing company for car dealers. Now, tell me your background.
Yeah.
Well, how did you get started? I know you got this big staff. You've got the offices in is it Petersboro, New Hampshire?
Yeah, Peterborough, New Hampshire. That's right, Jim. Absolutely. Yeah.
Peterborough.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So, like you're saying, I'm a second generation car guy. I was in retail for 22 years before I left to become a vendor. A big part of the reason that I created this company was really the result of my frustration with digital vendors in the space during my time in retail. I see, if you look outside, there's a little bit of snow falling, and I think it's starting to get in the office here. I'm not sure how to get down there in Georgia, Jim. It looks like it's falling on you too.
We get it sometimes. I know it's winter time. We're broadcasting this thing a couple of days before Christmas. So I know you're in Peterborough, New Hampshire. So I brought the snow with me just to maybe I can get the snow off the screen. There we go. Okay.
Be careful what you wish for, because being on with me, I could send it down to you by accident.
No. That's fine. We repaved the southbound lanes 4 times as much as we repaved the northbound lanes.
Nice.
Oh, tell me about your history, Tim. How did Wikimotive get born? Where did you come from? I know your background, but tell the people.
Yeah, for sure. So, like I was saying, second generation car guy, really it was kind of by accident due to my success in retail with SEO and social media, kind of before anyone even heard the acronym SEO, or thought about marketing on social media. And so, I worked for a little one store, a one car showroom Nissan dealer, kind of in the middle of nowhere in Massachusetts. And, within a year of me kind of taking control of the digital reins, if you will, we ended up becoming the 3rd largest volume Nissan dealer in New England, #1 in net profit, and 22nd nationwide in certified pre-owned. And so, then I started working for the larger group itself, and, being asked to speak at some of the conferences that you and I have both spoken at over the years. And it just kind of naturally evolved into what it became. So, I left in 2009 and kind of bootstrapped this company out of my basement with 2 young guys that worked for me in the dealership. And, here we are today, a multi-million-dollar company with 60 people on staff, and, really just an incredibly impeccable reputation in the marketplace for what we do.
Is your dad still active?
Yeah, so Dad just left retail after 50 years, 7 months, and 6 days. I finally stole him away from retail, and he is now the CFO of Wikimotive. And man, I got to tell you, all the years working in the car business, I never really worked with my dad or for my dad, so I never really got to kind of appreciate his skill set and his talent in the business. But man, can he work circles around anyone else I've ever experienced.
What did your dad do in the business?
Well, so he came in the fixed ops route. He's a typical kind of Cinderella story, rags to riches story in the car business. Grew up real poor. They told him if he was smart with numbers, he'd never have to worry about driving a car again. And so, he worked in the parts department worked his way up to, fixed ops, eventually, the fixed ops director, and then ultimately the chief operating officer of the group, and, ended up really spending a lot of his time in acquisitions and growth for the dealership group. So like buying and selling dealerships is his
Tim,
thing.
I was the keynote speaker for the Massachusetts State Auto Dealers Convention 5 or 6 times. I've been I've been the opening keynote speaker, not just a speaker on the program, but the opening keynote speaker for 98 state dealer conventions. And
It's
Massachusetts,
incredible.
at least 4 or 5 times, I forget. But that's where I met your dad. That's where I got
Yes,
to
sir.
know him. That's where we became friends. And ultimately, that's where I met you the first time before you were even in Wiki Motive. I mean, so anyway, well, you've evolved. You got Wiki Motive. You're a multi-million-dollar company. You've got 60 employees. What do you do?
Yeah, well, so thanks. So we are about a very specific lane in digital search engine optimization, Facebook marketing, more than even social media in general, Facebook marketing, and reputation management. Those 3 core services have been, really the story for us since day one, 11 years ago when I started the company.
What are dealers struggling with? I know the answers to a lot of questions I ask.
Yes,
I
sir.
ask questions to which I already know the answer. That's a sign of a great manager, and love me. Anyway, listen, big guy. What are dealers struggling with? What do we need to fix? What paradigms have shifted? I mean, I'm giving you a whole broad range of subjects we can talk about. What's changed? What 2021 is just a couple days away. What are we looking at? Coming out of COVID. Hopefully, we come out of COVID. Knock on my desk. We're coming out of COVID. What's next?
Well, that's a really smart question, Jim, because there are all kinds of consequences, ramifications to coming out of COVID, right? I think initially there was a lot of panic in terms of the business, and then everyone was sort of surprised that we recovered more quickly than maybe people initially anticipated. And so for a lot of our clients, I've seen them, and blessed to get really fat on high gross profit as inventory levels declined, right? So we could really take advantage and maximize gross on all these deals. But as we start to come out of COVID and we start to see the manufacturers bring back second and third shifts and really start cranking these cars out again, and those supplies go back up, the game is going to change again. It's going to flip really quick when there's the prices go down and the competition increases to capture that customer. It's going to be really important to be focused on dealer profitability. And this is something I've been really sort of passionate about forever. I mean, like you were asking, why did I kind of get in this business? Why, if another vendor walked into my office and said, if you just sell 2 more cars a month, this thing will pay for itself, I was ready to show him the door with his head. And so, what I'm really passionate about helping dealers do is not just sell more cars, but be more profitable in the process. And this is what we really have to be focused on. And that's one of the things I want to talk about today.
So many vendors are walking in the door of the dealer and say, hey, we're going to increase your unit sales, but they don't talk about profit because they're going to reduce your profit. I mean, you're going to have to sell 50 more units to break even if you hire this vendor or that vendor. And you're paying these people extravagant amounts of money to reduce your profitability. And that's one thing, the SEO Animal, that's you. That's one thing you and I agree on. We got to keep our profitability. I'm wearing a very expensive watch. I mean, but I defy you to go on the internet and find an invoice on a Rolex. Rolex does not publish their invoices, and they forbid their dealers to talk about it. We can guess what a Rolex cost. We can estimate it, but nobody has published it. They won't publish it. But our car dealers,
that's right.
Every vendor out there, the manufacturer is helping them to reduce our profitability, and they're charging you extravagant amounts to do that. You, Wiki Motive, are very mindful of the dealer's product profitability. That's one thing I'm really high on that aspect of it. What else?
Thanks, Jim. Well, I appreciate that. So, one of the things that we're really focused on in those terms is how can we make it less expensive to get the attention they need from the consumers that they're trying to get into the dealership, right? And so, SEO has consistently over the last decade been one of the lowest costs for the most attention. The problem in our industry is not very many agencies out there are doing SEO the way that it's supposed to be done. And I mean, none of the stuff I talk about is some secret sauce, some magic that you can't just look up on Google. I mean,
wait a minute. Wait. We advertised this broadcast that we're going to teach dealers how to reduce the cost per unit sale
yes, sir.
while increasing their profits. Now, I know you strapped on a big set, big boy, but how are we going to do that?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm telling you. That's what I'm telling you right now, Jim. So, the thing that people are doing is they're paying 2, 3, 4 times over to reach the same customer. I mean, if I told you could reach a customer for 20 cents and you said, no, thanks, I'd rather pay $10, $15 to reach that customer. And I'd like to do it several times because I just like lighting my money on fire to get Mr. Jones in the seat to buy the blue one. That's what dealers are doing every single day.
What dealers tell me? Not all dealers, but there's some brain dead dealers, and there's some really efficient, smart dealers. Some of the other dealers tell me, well, Jim, I know that my marketing company is crappy, but I get co-op for the crappy results.
Yeah, sure. And even if you're getting 100% co-op, in a lot of cases, it's still costing you money to do this. It's costing you customers. It's hurting the process for them. It's making them have less desire to complete the process and get in the funnel to sell a car. And so what I'm really talking about, Jim, is SEM, is PPC, pay per click, has really become one of the most burdensome, cost inefficient spends for dealers. And I've got the numbers to back it up. I can show you again and again with virtually any dealership out there, if they're spending money on PPC, they're probably wasting 80 to 90% of it. And I'm talking even the organizations that we look up to as being the pinnacle of success. And some of them are our clients. So one that we just took on this year, that I'll talk about, Dan Cummins. A lot of people know the Dan Cummins organization.
Dan Cummins, they're incredible. Dan Cummins
organization.
In Mayberry to start with. I mean, their community has both city limit signs on the same stick. What I mean?
That's right.
Where is Dan Cummins? Where are they?
So they're in Paris, Kentucky, and Georgetown, Kentucky. And so, a lot of people don't know this, but we worked with them years back when they kind of made their run during the Glenn Lundy days from, 300 cars a month up to 700 cars a month. We were their SEO company at that time. And then they started doing some different things. Josh called me this summer and he said, Tim, you're like I'm going to call Wikimotive the girlfriend that got away while I was out chasing other things that I shouldn't have been. So we need you guys back. That's what he said.
The girlfriend that got away while I was chasing other things.
Yes, sir.
I will use that in some of my speeches. I like that. So anyway, you're working with Dan Cummins.
So we're working with them.
Dan Cummins is a juggernaut. I mean, they went to 700 units, and I know you were their SEO company at that time.
Yes, sir. Yep.
And well, tell me the success story. Where are they now?
So they're doing. I mean, they were just one store. The famous one Chevy store in Paris. They've got a handful of stores now, FCA stores and GM stores. They're really doing a fantastic job. And one of the things that's real interesting when you go from a single point franchise to a group is your branding can change. Sometimes your website URL needs to change because they were just dancummins.com for their Chevy store, and now they're dancummins.com the group. but Google still sees dancummins.com as the Chevy store. So we're trying to unwind that bowl of
So
spaghetti,
you're restructuring their Google My Business.
restructuring everything.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Google My Business, their links, all that kind of stuff. And so in the process of doing that, one of the things that we found is, they don't run PPC all month long. They run it in spurts for specific purposes. And that's certainly a smart approach. One of the things that allows us to do is see, well, how effective is this PPC spend? And what are the consequences when they run it or don't run it?
Love that. Let me interject something here. For 46 years, I've been in the car business, and I've consulted thousands of dealerships. But before I got into business, I was in radio advertising. I was a radio executive. I was one of the most well-known DJs in the country at one time, and I was in management. And one thing I know for a fact, 2/3 of the cars are sold in the second half of the month.
Right.
Nobody has ever effectively changed that. You can't force the paradigm because that's the way money flows through the American economy. Money flows through the American economy toward the second half. So why don't you fish when fish are biting? Your advertising dollar after the 15th will yield twice the results of your advertising dollar before the 15th. And people don't realize that. The same dollar is twice as effective when people are buying. And that doesn't mean you don't advertise in the first half of the month, but it means you certainly intensify the second half of the month. And dealers have always tried to force the first half. You can't force the first half. It is what it is. I just had to say that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So Dan Cummins advertises in spurts.
They do, yeah. And so one of the things we looked at, so from October 26th to just 2 days ago, we ran a case study for them where we studied the flow of all of their traffic on all of their websites, what happens when they run PPC and when it stops. And what we found is, so during that time, they got 26,000 sessions from their PPC. And that sounds really great. Sounds like they did a great job. Spent a lot of money to do it, but that's a lot of attention. But the interesting thing is, of those 22,000 sessions, they lost 19,609 organic sessions. Perfect correlation. When one goes up, the other one goes down. And as we go through all of the data and look at every one of those sessions, what we found is that 86% of the traffic that they got on PPC was completely wasted spend. That's traffic they would have had for free as a result of their organic presence, that they just pay, instead of getting the click at 67 cents a click, which is what it costs to maintain an organic strategy, they paid upwards of $11 per click for those 19,000 sessions that they would have got for
$11 a click versus 67 cents.
Versus 67 cents.
So, me personally, I'm going to spend the 67 cents.
What do you think? So the total wasted spend was just over $48,000 in that 2 month span. Not quite 2 months. 48,000 PP on just what they would have had for free. If they didn't spend that 48 grand, they would have got the same customers and sold the same cars. And we can correlate it 1-to-1 perfectly. So it's not a guess. It's not fuzzy math.
Can you replicate it? Can you make that happen?
Absolutely. Yeah. And this is what we, so, Dan Cummins, this is obviously everyone knows their name. They're a huge organization. Yeah. They spend a fortune on their marketing, right? Because to keep that wheel. So there's always going to be some waste and some overspend when you're trying to grow, right? Well, I got another one. I won't tell you their name. They're a much smaller dealer, but we ran the same study for them. Now, instead of talking about tens of thousands of sessions, we're talking about 1,000 to 2,000 session swing here. But when they turned their PPC on November 3rd, they ran this from November 3rd to the 30th. When they turned their PPC on the 3rd, 50% of their organic traffic was erased by running their PPC. 50%. Now, they didn't waste as much, only about 66% of it was wasted because they were actually smartly running some fixed ops stuff, which most dealers don't do a lot of fixed ops advertising
we need to
in their
talk about
PPC.
that in a minute. Yeah, that's a subject we're going to cover in this broadcast.
But so this very, very small rural store, we assessed that they lit about $3,000 a month, $3,000 during that month wasted spend. These are customers that would have come to the store, would have bought the same cars, would have gone through the same process, would have landed in the same place. Nothing would have been different except that they spent an extra $3,000 to do the same thing. They just said, here, we don't need this money this month. We're going to throw that one in the trash.
So you're doing a lot of research on the efficiency of the spend.
Huge.
The efficiency of the spend. Now, that small rural store you're talking about, we're talking about a store that's small, it's rural. Traditionally, how many units does that small store sell?
Well, when we started, they were doing about 35 a month. And
35 units. I see a lot of that demographic around where a lot of stores fit that profile.
Yeah. Yeah. So now they're up to about 80 units a month total new and used. So it's really been, and that's just been during this year, during COVID. We started with them at the beginning of the year, and they're up to a little over 80 units a month now. But and that's great. It always sounds great when you hear, wow, they tripled their business or they doubled their business. But the question that I always want to ask is, at what cost? Because if you sold 800 cars and it cost you $2,500 a car to do it, and you're only making $1,850 a copy, was it really a win? I mean, retro money, trunk money, whatever else you want to throw into the pot to try and make a ham sandwich out of it. If you did it for free, then what's the win? Sure, units in operation. Hopefully you get good retention, you get the fixed ops, but it's okay to make money in the front of the house too. And that's something that we're really focused on. It's not just the delivery of the services. It's how do we give it to you and help you make money while you're doing it.
In the movie A Night at the Opera, Groucho Marx said, if we don't sell too many of these, we might break even.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, most of the, unless you're the GM or the dealer principal, a lot of people don't think about contracts in transit and the cash flow, the nature of cash flow in the car business. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that if you sell enough cars fast enough, you could sell yourself almost into bankruptcy temporarily, because you got to pay the car off now. You're waiting to get funded. If we're talking about holdback being a factor, you're probably not going to see that for 90 days.
And
so
you got the trading on your used car.
You got to pay that off.
Yeah.
Right. You got to pay that off now. Right. The money's going out 5 times faster than it's coming back in at you. So
this is a message so many dealers need to hear, because there's so many vendors out there that are absolutely putting you in the ditch. And I've been screaming about this from the mountaintops, and people say, Ziegler, you're the voice crying out in the wilderness. No, they got to hear this message. It's all about how much you kept, how much profit you made. And I see so many vendors out there that are prophets of low profit or no profit. Google my business. Now, is that important?
Oh, yes, sir. It's so important. This is, in case for those of you not paying close attention, this is another one of those questions that Jim already knows the answers to, because he's just a smart tactician there. You know what I mean? So absolutely, Google My Business is important. And with any of these things, you really have to be thinking about where am I heading with this, and what do I want to accomplish, and particularly when we're talking about from a dealer profitability standpoint, this is another one of those key opportunities that dealers they miss because it's free. They think, well, it must not be important. It takes up a lot of time, and I don't know what the value of it is. So with your Google My Business, you get 10 categories to optimize your Google My Business. The average dealer has 1 to 2 of their 10 categories filled out. This is something I talk about a lot. Another friend of ours, Greg Gifford, talks about this a lot. These are such important things for dealers to understand. More importantly than the 10 categories, what a dealer really needs to understand is, don't think of it as a category. Think of it as a free library of SEO keywords. Each one of those categories has 1,000 free keywords that come with it.
A free library of SEO keywords.
SEO keywords.
Love it. Yeah. So Google My Business. Let me tell you a story. I looked at my Google My Business about 3 weeks ago and found out it was suspended.
How'd that happen?
Well, we moved.
We
moved, and I wasn't paying attention to it.
So you had to update it. Yep.
Until a couple of my friends. So I had to get unsuspended. I didn't even realize how many dealers aren't even paying attention to the Google My Business, which is your greatest SEO outlet today.
Free, totally free. And this is something we give you the information for free. If you follow us on social media, Wikimotive on Facebook, we have a weekly video series that comes out called Just the Tip you need to get your digital marketing in order. We actually give you the whole playbook of, here's how to optimize your Google My Business. Here are the things to look for. Here's what you're missing. And this isn't the complicated stuff. This isn't like trying to do the SEO that we do that helps dealers go, triple their business and content and links and all the complex stuff. It's literally, hey, you go into your Google My Business. Here's where you click to do this thing. Here's where you click to do that thing. This is how you do it. Here's how to make your choices on how to categorize and get those categories set up properly. And it's free. There's no one you have to pay to do it. And every dealer should have multiple Google My Businesses. You should have one for sales. You should have at least one for service and parts. If you have a body shop, you should have one for that.
Well, you're in Peterborough, New Hampshire. I guarantee you there's going to be some fender benders today. You need one. You need one for your body shop.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. If you have an EV charging station, you can have one for that. If you've got, an all-state insurance point in the dealership, if you offer, rental cars to customers, you can have a GMB for that. All of those things. And again, that sounds complicated. That's a lot of things to manage. Seems like it'd be confusing for the customer. Every one comes with 10 categories that have thousands of free libraries of keywords that come with each one of those categories. So you get 10,000 keywords for sales, 10,000 keywords for service, 10,000 keywords for parts, so on and so forth. What does that cost? It costs nothing. It's free.
You ever see the movie Home Alone?
Yes. Absolutely.
Unbelievable. So Wikimotive, you guys have become a juggernaut overnight, and there's a couple agencies out there that are juggernauts, and there's a lot of wannabes in the marketing business. The marketing business, all of a sudden, the competition is sprung up, and it's not really competition. It's all these wannabes. They worked in a dealership, they lost their job, and all of a sudden they're a marketing agency. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so there are some really important ways that a dealer can evaluate an SEO company without really totally understanding SEO or being an expert. And so, one of those things that you really want to ask for is the reporting of the vendor. What does their reporting look like? And this is going to, Jim, I don't know if you ever heard this about me, but I have a tendency to kind of piss people off sometimes.
No.
I don't know if you ever heard that before, but most agencies don't give the dealership any useful reporting at all. They'll show them a report that has the organic traffic. There might be some graphs that show it, going up and to the right. So things look green, but there's no context there. So your organic traffic channel for your dealership, most dealers don't know this, but 40% of your traffic is probably from the state you reside in. Just 40%. In fact, 12% of every dealer's organic traffic channel doesn't even come from the United States of America. So I don't know how important it is that you got 400% more visitors in New Zealand or in India or Great Britain. But to me, I'm not really super interested in how many of them are coming to visit my site and read my blog or check my specials.
Don't knock people from India. I got a little guy from India that calls me 4 times a day. He's concerned about my extended warranty on my car. Yeah, he's been trying to reach me.
Absolutely. We should maybe, train our BDC people over there, because they're certainly relentless and tenacious. So they could pick up some valuable insight there. But in terms of, marketing my website, not super enthused about, getting a lot of eyeballs outside the USA. And so your vendor reporting needs to reflect that. And your Google Analytics, the vendor's Google Analytics, if they use some other tool, like, tools can be helpful in explaining the data. We use a tool that called Raven that rolls up Google Analytics to show it in a more useful way to dealers, but it's still Google Analytics, and it has all the information that actually matters to a dealer, like how much did their organic traffic increase in their state, in their city, in their metro, in the cities surrounding, local SEO, traffic,
local SEO,
right? If they can't come buy a car, do you really care if you're getting more traffic where they live? If they're never going to drive there to buy a car, probably not, right? No. It's so if you just ask for a vendor's report, ask for 3 or 4 different random clients, they can anonymize the name if they don't want to show it. Just ask for the report and don't give them any context. If the report shows up and there's nothing about the location, if it's just that organic traffic channel, and even worse, if it's a bunch of keyword ranking, then it's not a real SEO company. At least not one that can help you sell more cars. Because if you can't reach people that buy them.
One complaint that I have, Tim, is the fact that so many marketing agencies grossly overcharge for the PPC. I mean, you got to remember, PPC is an estimate going into the month. And if they don't hit your budget, they pocket the difference. They're pocketing the difference. They're not giving you a true accounting on what the PPC actually cost. They're charging you the estimate they made at the beginning of the month. And if the PPC comes in for less, there's some agencies out there pocketing thousands that they didn't earn.
So there's always going to be some ethically gray stuff that some vendors do, and that part of it's unfortunate. I'm going to surprise you with this a little bit, though. In reality, one of the reasons that PPC in auto is so bad is because they don't actually charge enough to pay the people to do the work that needs to be done to really give you an excellent, efficient result. And the problem is, in order to pay them enough to give you a more efficient result, well, it becomes less efficient just by the fact that you have to pay them more to have the hands-on time spent on your account to get the result.
I'll pay for the quality of the service. I will pay for the quality of the results.
You got to pay. And there's no best. Someone's really doing this unbelievably so well that you're getting a real competitive advantage, because the pool is just so saturated. You're competing against the other dealers in your market. You're competing in a lot of cases against a regional tier 2 that's bidding on your brand as well as the keywords that you would want to bid on in your local market. And you're bidding against tier 1. You're all working against each other to drive
the cost against up. Car gurus,
and then absolutely the third-party listing sites. All of you are making the cost of acquiring a customer more expensive for each other without any real delineation or distinction of why they should choose one or the other. It's all relatively low quality, but it's a huge amount of money, which drives up the cost. And that's why you're paying $11. And I've seen some dealers paying over $20 a click for certain keywords, that they might only get two or three clicks on. And that might not sound like enough, like I blew that $60, except that they were never going to do anything. Like, it's just of the right combination of keywords that triggered a high cost result. And there's no lead, there's no phone call. They were gone 3 seconds after they hit your site, and you lit that money on fire. Now you do that across 11,000 keywords, which is the average keyword pool for an SEM spend during the course of a month, and it gets real expensive real fast, particularly when there's no result. And if you think about what an average $11 cost per click looks like, when you translate that down to leads, you're paying $150 a lead when you should be paying $150 to sell the car. We've gotten so far away from
say that again, please.
Like that.
Say that again. $150 a lead. Go say it.
Right. At $11 a click, you're probably going to pay on average about $150 a lead from PPC, when you should be selling a car for $150. It should be $150 to sell a car, not to buy a lead.
What are some of the other struggles that dealers are having going into 2021? The competition's gotten fierce. Our people have gotten really stagnant because they're operating out of their homes. They're on, they're off. They're in the showroom. They're back home. It's just it's crazy. What do you see happening?
So digital retailing tools are going to become a really interesting controversy, I think, in 2021, because while they certainly became an essential part of the lockdown, and it's good that dealers have begun to utilize them and be familiar enough with them that they're not hurt, that they've somewhat streamlined the process of keeping consumer expectations higher than I think maybe initially going into it. What I'm seeing a lot of is our badly engineered digital retailing tools that have negative SEO implications, or they're being iframed in on a dealership's website that really gums up the process. And it's funny, I'm constantly shopping for cars now because I just bought 2 cars for my kids. You might have seen a couple months ago.
I did.
And what a pain in the ass it was for me, even knowing guys in the business and having some that helped me out along the way. The process is still very clunky and riddled with mistakes, especially when we talk about these digital retailing tools that are just another layer that are slowing the website down. I'm looking to get a place in Florida, and so I've been shopping for some vehicles that I'm going to get once I get down there, and at dealerships that are in the general South Florida area where I'm headed. And these websites there's so many pop-ups, and there's so many tools and widgets stuck on them, and digital retailing tools and chat bots that pop up. I can't even get through an SRP because remember, I'm doing this on a mobile device. I'm not sitting in bed with a laptop anymore, but I'm doing this on my iPhone, and I can't even get to the vehicle that I want to look at because I just keep getting hit with another thing. And then when I finally get to the vehicles that I want, the site is so overloaded and slowed down that the SRPs are taking seconds and minutes even to load. They disappear, and I'm sitting there waiting to see the next vehicle that I want to look at. And this is because we just keep adding another shiny thing and another shiny thing and another shiny thing on top of our website.
Everybody that plugs into your website slows it down. Everybody that you allow to plug into your website slows your website down, and consumers leave. They don't stick. And I see that in all the dealers I talk to, all the dealers I know. I talk to 100 dealers a month, dealer principals, not counting the hundreds and people I talk to on the keyboard. It's incredible. Every vendor you hire that wants to put something on your website just slowed your website down. Yeah. And then there's these people that are doing text. I want to talk about text. There are some people out there selling mass texting. Excuse me. In most cases, mass texting is illegal. And the dealer is the one responsible. When the Federal Trade Commission comes knocking on your door, the texting company is not liable. You are. And we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, I don't get too much into the texting game myself, at least in terms of, obviously I think the communication portal is important, but if you're just out there like buying lists and mass soliciting people, you could definitely get yourself into trouble. But as long as it's two-way, communication initiated by them, that's really the key kind of piece that you want to look at. And you got to look at the time that you're allowed to follow up after that started. But you're absolutely right, Jim. One of the hardest things for the dealer is that this technology continues to move faster, and there's always another way to do something. And most vendor agreements are not written in the dealer's favor.